Hello and thank you for joining us for another Gran Turismo 7 video. This is a bit of a conversation really about the state of play with Dail Races at the moment. This is the way that things have been the last couple of weeks now, and we have to assume that it's sort of the way things are going to continue. Not only is everyone a little bit frustrated, I think, with the BOP and the fact that the RCZ seems to be the best car to use around every circuit. The Mazda Vision car is the best car for saving fuel, and we'll see how that pans out in this race. But it's sort of become in the way that Dail Races isn't so much about strategy as it is about just saving fuel and trying to no-stop the race. So it is a bit of fun to do at first. I mean, when I first did one of these races, I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to no-stop. I was driving, as I was in quali, but short shifting a little bit, not revving the gear out fully. But I thought there's no way that I'm going to make it run to the end. And then I was in a race with somebody who did make it to the end of the RCZ. Watch back the replay to find out how he was doing it, and this race that we're watching now is my attempt to replicate that and make it work. So you'll see there's a lot of lifting and coasting, so when you're coming into the heavy braking sections after a long straight, we're lifting a long way before the corner just to let the engine braking slow the car down, and then there's not much braking or gear changing required. And we're also short shifting, so not letting the revs build up in the car at all. For example, with the wrist corner, you'd normally be down into second and then accelerating and then into third, but here we're just keeping it in third gear, shifting to fourth very early here, whereas normally you would shift to fourth on the exit. And on this second lap round, we'll do a bit of a track guide, if you like, on how to fuel save appropriately in the RCZ. It does seem to be that the Mazda, as I've said, is the best car for saving fuel, so I will probably do a couple of these where I'm in the Mazda and trying to figure out how to do it in that. But I do think that once you've kind of nailed this strategy, it's not that hard to do. So this was only my second attempt at doing this. The first time round I used a little bit too much fuel early on because I wasn't doing the lifting and coasting part, I was only short shifting. And then second time round I was able to do it, and I just don't think personally that it is that challenging, and I really prefer having to race, needing to put in the fastest laps that you can, a bit of strategy around maybe some short shifting to save a little bit of fuel to make your pit stop shorter. But apart from that, I want to be driving on the limit as much as I can and trying to beat the competition by being the fastest driver, which I think is why a lot of us play this. Whatever driver rating that you're at, you want to be working to be the fastest in that lobby or as fast as you can within that lobby. So we're going to go through here anyway on lap 2, and I'll just give you a bit of a guide as to what tips I picked up to save the appropriate amount of fuel. So you can do a no-stop in the RCZ. This will work also for the McLaren as well and any other cars. So we're not letting the revs build up at all, using pretty much the same braking zones as before, but here I won't use first to turn into the first corner, I'll just keep it in second. And you see once the revs get up to about halfway up the rev counter, we're upshifting, if not a little bit before. Fifth gear, I noticed that the guy was upshifting once you get to 140 miles an hour. So once you're at 140, that seems to be the optimal point where you've used enough of the gear to get you up to speed. But sixth is obviously still quite a high gear. You would never normally use it in this car, so you want to make sure you get enough speed that when sixth takes over, you are still accelerating a little bit. Big lift here before the braking zone coming into the chicane, so you see I lift off a long way before you even see the 100-meter board, and then there's only a tiny little bit of braking required. And here we're using fourth as opposed to third when you're coming through the chicane section there, up into fifth again really early, and we're going to use third gear all the way around this right-hander. And instead of accelerating out in third, we're short shifting to fourth again, leaving the car in fourth for this left-hander. It coasts around nice and easily. And now, this obviously isn't the fastest way to do it, but you can see that people behind me are also fuel saving, so I'm still managing to stay in the lead here. Double left-hander here, we would normally be down into fourth, but we're going to keep it in fifth gear, and once we're accelerating out here again, we're going to short shift to sixth. Lift instead of braking late for this corner, so with the lifting there I probably could have actually braked a little bit later even. And again, keeping it in third through the chicane, but then short shift to fourth on the exit. This right-hander here, you can actually keep it in fourth. I do shift down to third here, but you can keep it in fourth the whole way. And definitely shifting early into fourth for this right-hander, and then I even shift really early into fifth gear there. You probably would do want to use fourth a little bit more. I was just being extra cautious because I can see the laps remaining in the fuel percentage at the minute. I'm 2 laps in and I've got 74% of fuel left. Now the Polish driver here is going to come past us. The speed that he's driving at, there's no way that he's saving enough fuel, so it's not worth fighting. If someone tries to come past you, you just want to just let them pass. I do try and hang with them a little bit here to use some of the slipstream, because slipstream really will help you with saving a bit more fuel. But ultimately, if somebody is revving the gears out and you're short shifting the way that I am here, you're never going to be able to keep up with them. So I've just kind of let him go, unfortunately. And I should say that final braking zone coming into the bus stop as well, that's another one where you want to lift very early. So you just lift off the power, let the car roll in, and then a little bit of brake towards the end to just slow you down enough to get through the bus stop. The one good thing that I can say about this strategy is that it really goes hand in hand with saving the tyres. So because of the way that we're driving, we're putting very little load on the tyres, not wearing them out at all. You're obviously not pushing into the corners or getting into sort of intense battles with anybody, which is what wears your tyres out. So it does make it easy to do the no stop, because you'll see the tyre wear by the end of the race is really not gone down by that much. But as I said at the start of the video, I really want this to be a conversation, so please do drop your thoughts in the comments. I don't know if I am alone in this, if maybe some people are really enjoying the fuel saving, or are other people frustrated with the sort of monotonal strategy of it being the same for the last sort of 3 weeks in a row. I personally would like to see a daily race C where multiple tyre compounds are needed, pit stops needed, and that in terms of the fuel, that there's nowhere near enough to get towards the end, or at least there's multiple tyre compounds forced which make you do a pit stop, so that you can really push a little bit. Maybe you're really enjoying this, as I say, in which case please do drop that in the comments as well. Let's have a bit of a conversation about it. I'm always curious to know what other drivers are thinking, and what people's thoughts are on the game other than just my own. And likewise, let us know what you think about the current cars at the moment. So, do you like the fact that there is a meta car, and that that's the way that it is? I mean, it reminds me a little bit of when I played Warzone. There's always that certain gun that if you want to just have that little bit of an advantage, it's not to say that you can't play the game with another car, but you know that you're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage if you don't use the car that's currently sort of on trend. And at the moment, that seems to be the Peugeot RCZ for Group 3, and the Mazda Atenza in Group 4, so that the last 2 weeks the leaderboard have been absolutely dominated by those two cars. Some people are keeping up in the McLaren. There's always going to be those really fast drivers that are able to make it work in other vehicles, but for the general population, the majority of us playing this game, those are the cars that you need to be in if you want to be fighting for a good position. We get a little bit dive bomb there by the French driver, but again, I'm not really going to let it get to me. We do get pushed wide with this horrible slippery green run off there, so I just have to make sure that I don't spin the car. But again, I'm just going to let those two drivers go past. There is no point in fighting. You really have to keep your wits about you when you're doing this strategy, in terms of not getting sucked into racing with someone, because if you do get drawn into having a race, all it takes is one lap. When you're this close to the wire, you're going to see how close we come to actually running out of fuel at the end of the race. You need to just stay on track with your strategy. So if you are going to do this, make sure that you don't get dragged into any kind of battling. Don't think, oh, I'll just fight with this guy for one lap just to stay ahead. It is honestly not worth it. So you see here, I just pull to the inside to try and not give him as much slipstream as I can, although it looks like he is probably fuel saving a little bit as well. And if someone gets right up behind you and they're really pushing, just pull over and let them go past, because you're going to see the people then come into the pits, and the length of the pit stop, especially here at Spa, you're definitely going to gain that place back. So don't worry that you're going to end up down the order. You need to really think of the long game here, and invest in the future of your fuel economy, and making sure that you're going to make it to the end. Otherwise, you're going to end up in the horrible situation that I ended up in the first race that I tried to do this on, where you're saving fuel, so you're very slow, so you're giving positions away, and then you get 2 laps to the end of the race and you realise that you're not going to have enough fuel to finish, and you've got to pit stop anyway. I mean, that's just the worst of both worlds, because you've not been driving quickly and you haven't saved enough fuel, so you really don't want to find yourself in that situation. Skipping forward here a little bit towards the end of this lap, this is the end of lap 4, so this is where we start to see some of the first pit stops, and you see there Haramba has obviously been burning as much fuel as possible, coming in with only 9% after 4 laps, so he's just been revving the car up the whole way. Some other drivers saving, so 22 and 41% of fuel there, so they're going to save themselves some time from going into the pit. So that's the alternative strategy, is that you can do a little bit of fuel saving, but still use 5th gear only, rev the gear out a little bit more than what I am, and that's going to be that kind of balancing point between doing the no stop and doing a 1 stop, but trying to make the most of the pit stop, in terms of having it as short as possible. But ultimately, the no stop is definitely quicker this week. So once again, let's just skip forward in the race a little bit here and see what else happened towards the end. Now, coming towards the end of lap 5, we're going to see some more pit stops here, no doubt. So lap 5 and 6 does seem to be the most popular for anybody doing a one stop. And you may notice a familiar name is working its way up the order. So we've got Zavasic currently in 6th place. He actually started last, so he hadn't set a qualifying lap for this. So he's dead last place. Obviously an incredibly quick driver. I don't know if anyone watching this, if you haven't heard of Zavasic before, then he's regularly in top split, one of the fastest drivers on the game, and often in the top 10 qualifying times. So we see a flurry of people coming into the pits there, and he's jumped up to 3rd place. So now with 3 laps to go, we've got the rest of this lap 6 and then 7 and 8 to play out. We're quite comfortably in 1st place, but we're going to need to make sure that we're still keeping an eye on the fuel. So with 3 laps to go, the laps remaining still says 2.3. One word of advice to anybody looking at this though and thinking, oh, 2.3 laps of fuel to go, and he's got nearly 3 laps to complete, how is he going to make it? Don't be too put off by that when you're racing. The laps remaining calculator is not particularly accurate, especially if you are fuel saving or you're driving a bit more at a different pace to normal. It won't calculate accurately. What you need to look at is your percentage of fuel that you're using, and in order to make this work, you need to be using sort of 10 to 11% of fuel per lap. That's what you need to aim for. If you use 10 to 11% of fuel per lap, then you'll be dead on target, and that is really the important figure to keep an eye on. So we are getting gained a little bit by Cag here, or Carg, I'm not sure how you're supposed to say that name. So he's floating around the sort of second, but just breaking under the second barrier here. And as I was mentioning earlier in the video about tyre wear, you can see that we're on lap 6 and there is barely any tyre wear whatsoever. So when I was doing the one stop and driving regularly, I'd probably have that level of fuel, that level of tyre wear, sorry, after 3 laps. So it really does work well with saving the tyres and keeping the car easy to drive to the end of the race. As we come round here onto the back straight though, I do think that we're probably going to get passed by the Finnish driver, so he's gaining on us quite aggressively, and I'm still not 100% sure. I don't think when I was doing the race I've been keeping that close an eye on who would come into the pit, so I don't know if he's come in or has he not, but you'll notice that he is in the Mazda, which you seem to be able to drive a lot more aggressively and still save the appropriate amount of fuel, so I'll have to give that car a go as well. You see now I'm even using fuel maps when going through the sort of low power areas where you don't really need the acceleration, and just about managing to keep him behind us there. So he obviously is going for the no stop as well, I think, at this stage, from the way that he's not come past me there with the opportunity to. And he's also probably quite enjoying the slipstream, because if he's fuel saving and he knows I'm fuel saving, then as I said earlier in the video, the slipstream really does help you. So you're going to be able to just tuck in behind the other driver, use that little bit less acceleration to get up to speed, and probably lift and coast a bit more without losing too much time. So let's skip forward again here later into lap 7. There was a bit of an instant here as we're coming towards the end of lap 7, which sort of saved me, to be honest with you. So I was definitely going to get passed by the Finnish driver, but unfortunately there's a bit of a tap there from Zavasic just at the wrong moment, and it sends him out of control. So that's sort of left us safe for the time being. We're 1.18 seconds ahead, and we've only got Zavasic behind us. Now with 1 lap to go, am I going to be able to keep him behind one of the fastest drivers in the game? Probably not, but we're going to do everything that we can to try and hold on to first place here and see if we can bring home the pole start to podium finish. So as we're coming down to the bus stop for the final time, you see I've got 12% of fuel, shifting up in the fuel maps just for this section where I'm not going to be really using any acceleration to try and save that tiny little bit that I might need. But we are going to come across the start line with the 11% of fuel that we need to finish the race, but barely. I mean, we are really running it fine here, so there's a bit of mastery to it. I'm sure that with some practice I could get this down and be slightly more comfortable with the fuel towards the end. The tyres just giving way on me a little bit there, but yeah, we've now got Zavasic just closed straight down from 1 second to only 2-3 tenths behind, and it's going to be a question of whether he's got to save some extra fuel, although with the car that he's in, probably not. And as we come down the front straight, he's just going to come sailing right past us. Again, I'm not going to fight it. We don't have the fuel to be doing any kind of fighting whatsoever, so I actually just switch up the fuel maps and list and coast with the slipstream that I've got from him for a moment. And all I can count on really is if he makes a mistake, which is definitely not going to happen given the type of driver that he is. I mean, it would be incredibly rare for someone of that skill to just spin off. But we have got 2.5 seconds to the Finnish driver behind now, and it's going to be quite a comfortable second place. So yeah, that pretty much brings us to a close for this. Please do drop a like if you've enjoyed the video and you want to get involved in the conversation. Jump into the comments below, let us know what your thoughts are. As you can see there, the lap times I was putting in pretty consistent around the sort of low 25s, and did one low 24, so I guess that's the sort of lap times that you need to be aiming for if you are going to be saving fuel. Probably the fast drivers that do this are more in the low 24s more often than they are in the 25s, but yeah, let us know what your thoughts are. If you're enjoying it, are you not enjoying it, and what's the strategy that you would like to see? Would you like to see longer races? Would you like to see more tyre compounds? How would you use the fuel if you were in charge at Polyphony? What would be the sort of race combos that you'll be putting together? So yeah, please do drop a like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in for the video, and we'll leave you with the rest of the races to pan out here, but that is it for this one. Thanks very much.